Hi, my name is Beth Reitmeyer, and I'm going to share with you today about mindsets that promote resilience. So what is resilience? It's responding positively to challenges, it's adapting and developing in spite of threats. Challenges are ubiquitous in our world, and so it's essential for our students and for us as teachers to be resilient. The article was written by two authors, one of which is Carol Dweck. She is known for her work with mindset. She published her book Mindset in 2008, which defines, as well as this article, growth mindset versus fixed mindset. A fixed mindset and entity theory of intelligence, and also this applies to personality, is that in a fixed mindset, you are born with innate abilities. They're fixed. They don't change over your lifetime. You may not have math abilities or be able to read. You want to look smart. You're probably more aggressive and more extrinsically outside motivated. Growth mindset or incremental theory of intelligence is malleable. Intelligence grows and develops over time. You're not necessarily born with it. You have to work at it and employ strategies. You work smarter and harder. You're less aggressive. The world is seen as a place of opportunity, and you're more intrinsically motivated. And just keep in mind, it's not an either or for most of us. We have both mindsets present every day. Some examples of some growth versus fixed mindset statements. Is this just a snapshot is I'm not able to do this math yet. Or I'm not a math person, you add on yet. So the adding on yet statements is one of those characteristic things that you can do in growth mindset. Fixed mindset is I'm not a math person. I'm just going to try. And it's okay if I don't get it because I'm not a math person. That doesn't do any good. So what growth mindset and incremental theory are not is praising effort without evidence, telling students they can do anything, giving trophies for participation. And growth mindset is not only for students, it's for teachers. And Carol Dweck is working on that right now. It's focusing less on students because that research is solid, but developing practices for us as teachers. So with the students, what they did within the article and the work within the article is they put students through brief training. They scientifically taught students how the brain works, and that during learning, the brain grows stronger and smarter. Neurons are forming new connections, and students are picturing a denser neural network within their head. And as a result, their test scores improved, their grades went up, they persisted. If they were in community college, they didn't drop out, they continued. Students didn't believe that their personality was fixed, they could change things, conflicts decreased, transitions for ninth graders were easier, and their grades went up. And students were more resilient when encountering setbacks. So how it looks in my classroom, I'm an art teacher. And so I use it all the time, primarily through feedback loops. Often my students will say, I can't draw, and I'm like, yet. And so we talk about, how can we work at this and what kind of strategies that we can use to make you successful. They also ask me a lot, do you like it? And so I respond, are you stretching yourself? How are you challenging yourself through your artwork? And so that's how I use it. So the second article that I looked at, I was interested in COVID-19 and its impact on the brain. Just know that COVID-19 does physically impact the brain. It causes inflammation. It causes neurodegeneration, and it impacts our prefrontal cortex. So that's why we have brain fog. And in students who have it, they are more likely to be depressed. And face inhibition challenges. So this is real. It happens in our brain. So if your students seem out of it after COVID, it's really like COVID impacting their brain. And so I wanted to see how growth mindset can support our students as we're emerging from the pandemic. And so I looked at this article. The authors of the study, there are two of them, they identified 20 different empirical studies through a search involving 5,800 students. And they looked specifically for growth mindsets interventions. They looked through 4 different academic databases for articles. There were initially over 1,000 articles. They weeded them down using very specific guidelines. So it had to have implicit theories, growth mindset, the age group was college students, the interventions needed to be real and measurable. The journals were peer reviewed. The processes were experimental, randomized, and quasi-experimental. These were empirical designs. And so they had a very specific checklist of what they were looking for. And they review the articles via the checklist to enhance methodological qualities in intervention programs. Here's the chart. You can read it in the article. And what they found was that the pandemic created feelings of anxiety, panic, and depression. Students' mental health was impacted, but their resources were sparse. And recognizing that their own emotions and sharing those with family and friends helped. Growth mindset was multifaceted, and they found specific practices of self-regulation, self-efficacy, and self-esteem really helped students as they transition from in-person to online. Self-regulation is students directing their own learning, including goal setting and monitoring. Self-efficacy, believing that they have a capacity to achieve the outcomes, and then self-worth. They were good enough to do the work. So the results were those that received mindset interventions had higher efficacy. The grades overall didn't directly correspond to all growth mindset practices, but those that had higher efficacy had higher grades. And then recognizing that one's emotions impact your performance and your growth, like help students. The limitations were that the studies didn't include follow-up over time. So did this persist? And they included STEM subjects and not other subjects like language arts or arts. And the interventions were virtual, so there were no face-to-face interventions to compare the results to. So some strategies and some tools that I use in my classroom. Carol Dweck started this website called Mindset Works, which is full of resources. So there are these virtual curriculum, so that you could do whatever the same basic thing that they did in the article that we read. You can do with your students or your kids. They have these feedback tools and these framework tools with statements that you can use and practices that you can use with students. The framework one gives you some direction in terms of introducing context and projects. Things like today your neurons are going to fire in new ways, and you may not be able to do it yet because we're building new connections in our neurons, but we will. So we work through things. And then the feedback tool is really great because it gives you strategies for students as they struggle, as they persist, as they maybe exert effort and do not succeed. What do you do? What if they are not exerting effort and not succeeding? What do you do? What if they're succeeding and they did great? These two tools, which I'm posting on the discussion board, are excellent resources. The Khan Academy has a brief 4-minute video. It was created for 4th graders as an introduction to how the brain works, but it's really great. It's great for all ages to give an introduction to how the brain can change and grow through effort and strategies. Another resource that I use is Superflex, and basically it's this pantheon of superheroes. The main one is Superflex, which encourages flexible thinking. And the villain in all of this is Rock Brain, and that's just one way of thinking. And so if students can employ strategies thinking about their thinking as superheroes and villains, it's really effective. So there's a whole pantheon of heroes and villains and how you can think. For middle and high school, I like to use the Roger Von Oeg's Creative Whack Pack. It has 64 cards to help them to think about their projects and where they're at and how they can make them better through their thinking and through things like taking risks or doing things a different way. These are the cards in Von Oeg's creative process. The first step is you're an explorer, which means you analyze your resources, your skills, and the tools, and maybe who you need to talk to get the skills or the resources. The second step is the artist. This is where you take your resources and you make things and generate new ideas. The fourth stage is the judge, which you critique and evaluate your ideas. And then the fourth is the warrior, which is you just do it. So often my students get stuck in the judge stage where they're like, I don't like it. It's not good. And I'm like, you're not done. What stage do we need to do? Do you need to be in the warrior? Do you need to exert some effort using your strategy to get it done? Do you need to look back at your resources to figure out how you can be an artist to implement it? You need to judge at the very end of the process. And at that point, you need to figure out, am I done or do I need to go back and engage with my project in a different way? So it's implementing growth mindset through the creative process. Jonathan Hott also has a great website with curriculum in terms of avoiding tribal thinking, of polemic thinking for high school students. So anyway, thank you. Here are my resources. I'm posting my PowerPoint. So you'll have it and you can click on the links and get all the resources. Thank you. Bye.